Spine-chilling true tales of sinister hauntings, unexplainable horrors revealed and exposed. Lisa grabbed the last remnants of coffee from her stained mug and peered into the dimly lit hallway. The creaking floorboards beneath her feet echoed the loneliness that had settled in the corners of her once happy home. Mia, her bright-eyed 6-year-old, had drifted into the fog of sleep, but Jake, only 4, remained restless. The thought of facing another unseen terror made Lisa's heart race. It began innocently enough. A whisper, soft and eerie, drifted through the house at night. It would be in the thin cracks of silence that she'd hear it. "Mommy, can I go play with my friend?" Mia would murmur, staring vacantly into the dark. Lisa had brushed it off as the product of a vivid imagination. Children had imaginary friends, didn't they? But deep down, something gnawed at her, unraveling her sense of safety. Just a week ago, it had been a knock at the door. No one was there, only the wind rustling through the trees outside. Her nights grew longer and heavier, shadows stretching like fingers across the walls. Then came the scratching, a relentless grating sound that resonated within the walls. Lisa would hold her breath, praying it was just the house settling. Something mundane, something harmless. But panic would seep in like water through a crack, pooling around her heart. Mia's drawings kept piling up on the fridge, stick figures with big eyes, their heads cocked as if they were listening. But one stood out, a dark, looming shadow, a monstrous figure with a grotesque smile. "That's my friend, Mommy. He says I have to be careful," Mia exclaimed one afternoon, unaware of the chill racing down Lisa's spine. Lisa had to push these thoughts aside as she closed her eyes for a moment, exhausted, and wishing for an end to the madness. Then, she remembered the news report she had seen weeks ago about the woman who vanished right from this neighborhood years ago. The investigation had mysteriously gone cold, and Lisa felt a sinking dread at the thought of what could have been revealed. Desperation seeped into her bones. She needed to know more. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Something shifted that night. The scratching grew louder, more aggressive, as if trying to tear through the walls. Lisa shot a look towards the hallway, her heart pounding. There was an overwhelming sense of urgency to act. She rushed over to the neighbor's house, Harry, the friendly figure who always offered help. But even as she shared the absurd stories of Mia's friend, his smile became unnervingly tight, like a mask slipping. "Kids sometimes see things we can't, Lisa," he said softly, but there was an edge to his voice. Surrounded by whispers of consolation, a flicker of uncertainty ignited within her. What if Mia's friend was warning her about more than just shadows? What if Harry wasn't who he seemed? As Linda departed his house, breathless with a mix of relief and dread, she swore she heard a soft laugh, mocking and chilling, lingering in the air as she raced back home. Shadows twisted behind her, following her with a desperation that left her breathless. And there, looming in the thick darkness of her living room, the very friend Mia had colored from imagination stirred, real and watching, waiting. Lisa's heart froze, a single thought boiling over. What had she brought upon her children? In that moment, reality twisted into nightmarish shapes and she felt the walls pulse around her. The air thickened, pressurized by an unseen weight. Lisa stood frozen, heart hammering in her chest. The figure loomed closer, a twisted silhouette that stretched and warped in the dark, as if it thrived off the shadows themselves. Its smile was grotesque, all teeth and malice, an echo of the drawing Mia made. A creation now manifesting into nightmarish reality. "Mommy." Jake's small voice pierced through the haze of dread, pulling Lisa back to the present. He stood behind her, eyes wide, innocent and terrified. She grabbed his tiny hand, desperately wanting to shield him from whatever horror was breeding in their home. "What's happening?" he squeaked, his little body trembling. But there was no answer. The thing looming in the corner seemed to suck the very sound from the room. It leaned forward, and Lisa could see it more clearly now. A living shadow, its form shifting with a life of its own, painted in hues of deep black and flickering gray. "Mia?" Lisa shouted, her voice quaking. The shadows danced, delighting in her fear, mocking her cries. Mia didn't stir. She lay obliviously in her room, the darkness waiting hungrily. With every ounce of courage, Lisa took a step towards the specter looming near the couch. "Get away from him!" she screamed, her voice louder now. The entity recoiled slightly, then surged forward, its mouth widening into a grotesque grin that seemed to stretch beyond human limits. The chill in the room intensified, wrapping around her like icy tendrils. Suddenly the grin twisted, and it was as if something slithered deeper within the darkness, flickering in and out of view. There were whispers now, barely audible yet clear enough to send icy needles along her spine. "Play. Let's play." "No!" Lisa cried, trying to drown out the sounds. She felt her blood thrumming in her ears, urgency clawing at her resolve. "Stay away from my children." Just then, recklessness fueled her. She grabbed a lamp and hurled it toward the shadow. It shattered upon impact, releasing shards of light that scattered like fleeting hopes into the suffocating dark. For a moment, the oppressive atmosphere lifted. The figure reeled back, shimmering, then exploded into a cloud of darkness that hissed and retreated, swirling into the corners of the room like a storm retreating from shore. Jake clung to her side, eyes darting from the phone that had gone eerily silent to the dispersed bits of glass on the floor. The moment of reprieve felt too light, like a breath before a storm. "Mia?" She dashed towards the bedroom, light barely illuminating the path as she kicked debris out of the way. With every creaking floorboard, she felt the pulse of fear tighten around her throat. Mia lay still, a peaceful expression on her sleeping face. But the atmosphere had shifted. The air was thick and heavy, and deep shadows lingered around her like vultures waiting for a meal. Lisa leaned down, her heart thudding against her ribs, shaking Mia gently. "Wake up, sweetheart," she whispered, trying to keep the panic out of her voice. But as Mia stirred, Lisa caught sight of her daughter's drawings, scattered on the bed, each one a memory of innocence now tainted. Each stick figure had morphed, the eyes too large, the smiles too wide. They were all looking at her, all aware, all watching, murmuring the same word: play. "What have you done?" Lisa thought, desperation clawing at her throat. A new realization crawled into her mind, suffocating her. The shadows were not just claiming her children's dreams, they were possessing their very essence. Then came the knocking, a rhythmic sound echoing throughout the house. Lisa's heart sank. It wasn't at her front door. It was in the walls, deep within the very foundation of her home, as though something ancient and malevolent was awakening and seeking to break free. And then it all became clear. The woman who vanished, the chill they felt, the whispers in the dark. What did that shadow really want? What was its true game? Lisa took a sharp breath, determination and terror colliding in her chest. She needed answers before it was too late. But as she glanced back at Mia, she saw her daughter's smile fading and a shadow creeping behind her. The walls trembled around them. It's time to play. What would happen when the game began? Lisa felt the blood drain from her face as the words crept into her ears. There was a weight in their tone, sinister and alluring. "It's time to play," echoed again and again, reverberating through the very essence of her being. She wanted to scream, to run, but her body was frozen, a statue paralyzed by fear. Jake, oblivious to the dangers looming, tugged at her sleeve. "Mommy, what is it?" His innocence cut through the tension like a knife. But the shadows shifted, writhing like serpents. They craved attention. They craved souls. "Mia! Wake up!" Lisa shook her daughter harder, her own panic pushing her forward. Mia stirred and slowly opened her eyes, the light of the room flickering ominously. The shadows danced just beyond her vision, coaxing her back into the sleep of nightmares. "Mama, they're here," Mia whispered, her gaze fixating not on Lisa but on some place beyond, somewhere Lisa couldn't see. The clarity of her daughter's voice tore through the haze. "Who's here, sweetheart?" "The playmates," she replied, and as she spoke, shadows swirled at the foot of the bed, gathering into familiar shapes. Lisa could almost make out the outlines of children, their faces pallid and stretched, mouths grinning with an unnatural glee. "No, no, no," Lisa's voice cracked, her nerve fraying. "You need to stay awake. We need to get out of here." In a surge of instinct, she scooped Mia into her arms and turned to Jake. "Come on, we have to leave now." Suddenly, the knocking escalated, a cascade of vicious thuds pounding against the walls. It felt like a heartbeat, a colossal, sinister rhythm that promised dread. She dashed towards the door, her breaths deepening, ripping through the suffocating air. But the door wouldn't budge. It was as if an unseen force held it shut. "Mommy!" Jake screamed, and she felt her heart splinter. "Do you feel that?" Mia whispered, staring wide-eyed at the shadows around her. The figures twisted and shrieked in delight, piercing through the fragile calm. Wails filled the air, terrifying and jubilant, like the chorus of lost souls celebrating their eternal prison. "Stop it!" Lisa shouted, banging her fists against the door, panic surging through every fiber of her being. But the shadows only tightened their grip, mocking her efforts. She turned back to Mia and Jake, seeing their horror reflecting in her children's eyes. The room seemed to warp, the ceiling lowering, pressing down on her sanity. "Play with us!" The voices shrieked, and like a thunderclap, darkness enveloped the room, a thick veil swallowing any sliver of hope. "Not now!" Lisa cried, desperation spilling out of her. Every ounce of strength surged inside her chest, her protective instincts igniting. She had to find a way. "What do you want? What do you want from my kids?" The darkness stilled, an almost tangible silence wrapping around them. For a heartbeat, everything paused. Only the thudding of her pulse resonated in the eerie air. "Your happiness and your fear, your love," the shadows whispered, shifting closer, their forms melding into one another. The weight of years of sorrow and darkness loomed, hovering over them like a storm ready to break. Then, as if provoked, the door flung open suddenly, pulling Lisa into the freezing hall. She stumbled, adrenaline coursing as she gripped Jake and Mia tightly. But before she could run, a shadow darted in front of her, blocking their escape. The eyes glowed with a seething hunger and the grotesque grin widened. "Let's play. The game of forever," it hissed, and a chill enveloped her entire being. Lisa's breath caught, panic blinding her. She turned, feeling the darkness press in from all sides. There was no safe haven, no escape. Time slowed as she met her children's fearful gazes, and she knew this was only the beginning. What kind of game awaited them in the shadows? In the dim corridor, Lisa felt the air grow heavy, suffocating her resolve. The hall's walls shifted like they were breathing, drawing close as if the house itself was alive, hungry. It felt unreal, a deceptive nightmare where escape danced just out of reach. The shadow in front of them loomed larger, its empty gaze fixated on her with an unyielding intensity. "Mommy!" Jake clutched at her leg, his small body trembling against her. "I don't want to play." A sickening wave of panic washed over her. She dropped to her knees, pulling him and Mia close. "Listen to me, we don't play." Her heart raced, thrumming wildly. "We run!" With renewed determination, Lisa jumped to her feet, gripping Mia in one arm and taking Jake's hand in the other. They darted down the hallway, the echoes of their hurried footsteps swallowed by the oppressive silence. The shadows swirled around them, whispering secrets that curled around her ears like thick smoke. Every instinct screamed at her to stop, to turn back, but she couldn't afford to look. "Where do we go, Mommy?" Jake whimpered. "Keep moving, just keep moving," Lisa urged, her voice breaking. The world felt distorted, like they were trapped inside a fever dream just waiting for the final bite of despair. As they raced down the corridor, cold fingers of darkness snaked around her ankles, trying to pull her back. Forgetting to breathe, she took long, frantic steps, leading her children deeper into the bowels of the house. Each room they passed felt alive with whispers. each painting on the walls twisted and grotesque. Faces she didn't recognize stared impossibly, eyes hollow and mouths curved in wicked glee. "We have to find the staircase," she shouted, more to herself than them. "If we can get upstairs, we can find a way out." Suddenly the ground tremored. A horrible laugh erupted from the shadows, a cacophony of voices, high-pitched and brimming with menace. The house shuddered as if the foundations themselves were displeased with their intrusion. As they plunged into darkness, Lisa spotted an old wooden door at the end of the hallway. The door loomed, barely hanging on rusted hinges, but something about it felt wrong, like a predator lying in wait. "Mommy, no!" Mia cried, pulling back. "The shadows don't want us to go there." "We have no choice," Lisa shot back, her heart pounding. The shadows hissed menacingly, and she felt the pull of their intent. They burst through the door, tumbling into a cavernous room. A thick layer of dust coated everything, and old cobwebs hung like dismal curtains across the corner. But it was the center of the room that froze her in place. A circular table, bare except for a single red button gleaming like a sinister gem. "Don't touch it!" Mia shrieked, eyes wide with terror. Lisa felt a magnetic pull toward the button, the whispers growing louder, softer, beckoning her in. "Maybe it's a way out," she murmured, almost to herself. But before she could reach for it, the shadows from the hall erupted into the room like a storm, swirling and mingling, taking shape. They formed into the grotesque, familiar faces of children. Smiling with eyes that sparkled with malice, they surrounded her. "Are you ready to play?" one of them hissed, voice dripping with sweetness that churned her stomach. "No, get back!" Lisa shouted, stepping back. The shadows surged, and panic clawed at her throat. Desperation ignited within her. "If you want a game, then we'll play," she said, forcing her voice to steady. "But on my terms." The laughter crescendoed to a chilling pitch, echoing all around as the children's grins widened. "Let's see how long you can run before it finds you." Lisa's heart plummeted. They weren't just playing a game, they were the game. Before she could react, the shadows lunged forward, and she pushed her children behind her, prepared to fight. But the room began to spin, darkness intertwining with the very essence of her being. "Run!" she screamed. But as the shadows closed in, the last thing she saw was their wicked glee. And in a terrifying moment, all was lost in a suffocating embrace of darkness. What kind of game had she just unleashed? And how long could they survive before the shadows craved their despair? The darkness enveloped them, a thick fog that tasted of dread and despair. Lisa fought against it, her senses screaming as shadows pulled at her limbs, trying to drag her into their depths. She could feel the laughter echoing, mocking, teasing, as if time itself slowed to relish her impending doom. "Mommy!" Jake's little hand squeezed hers. She could barely feel his warmth through the cold grip of shadows wrapping around their bodies. "I don't want to play anymore." "No more games, I promise," she gasped, her breathing ragged. Lifting her other hand, she shielded her children as they stumbled backward. The shifting shapes morphed around them, closing in like a noose. The laughter morphed, twisting into something lower and darker, a guttural thrumming that vibrated through her bones. The circular table loomed behind them, still anchored with that sinister red button. "Stay close," she yelled, wrestling to keep them together as urgency coiled in her gut. With a firm but trembling grip, she dragged them toward the dim light that seeped through the dust. But the shadows were relentless. They surged, filling the space, their eyes gleaming like shards of glass in the deepening night. From the edges, the children's faces looked on, grinning with a twisted kind of joy, urging their shadows to feast. "Why do you want us?" Lisa shouted, desperation cracking her voice. "What do you want?" "Everything," one of the children replied, its voice sharp as a knife echoing in her mind. "We want your fear, your despair, your very essence." The shadows writhed further, the air thickening with a choking smoke that threatened to snuff out what little light remained in her heart. Lisa turned, her mind racing. They needed to escape. At the far end of the room, the oppressive, pulsating darkness parted slightly, revealing a narrow path. "That way! Come on!" she urged, pulling Jake and Mia toward the opening. The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of anguished wails that made the boards beneath their feet tremble. "You can't leave. You owe us a game," the voices cried out, melding into one haunting chorus that echoed in her skull. As the path widened into a grim corridor, Lisa bolted forward, urgency fueling her every step. The tightness in her chest grew heavier, but there was no turning back. She could feel the pulse of the house, alive and insatiable, quickening with every hurried footfall. "Mommy, it's too dark!" Mia stumbled, her little legs growing weary. "Just a bit further, baby. We're almost there!" Lisa shouted, glancing back just in time to see a swirling mass of shadows, the children's faces peering from within, eyes glinting with malevolence. "Run!" she roared, and in some wild, defiant act, slammed her palm against the wall. To her shock, the wood felt warm, almost alive. The shadows recoiled, hissing as if her touch burned them. "Push the button," Jake urged, panic threading through his voice. "Maybe it can help us." Could it help? Or was it a trap? Another cruel trick from the house? The indecision settled heavily in her gut as the shadows raged, swirling faster, now taking form, thick, grotesque limbs extending toward her. "Do it, Mommy," Mia begged, her eyes wide with fear, and Lisa knew it was now or never. With her heart slamming against her ribcage, she screamed, "Okay, we're playing!" and slammed her palm down on the glinting button. Everything froze. Silence blanketed the room, smothering the laughter, the chaos, if only for a brief moment. Then a blinding light erupted from the button, engulfing them whole. Lisa felt the ground shift beneath her, the air crackling with energy as they were thrust into a violent whirlpool of memories. She gasped as ancient fragments surged through her mind, visions of lives lost, children's laughter twisted into cries. "What have I awakened?" she realized as the realization settled in. The game had a different rule set, one that was impossibly dark and unforgiving. As the light faded, the laughter returned, but it was softer now, almost like a whisper beckoning her. And suddenly she found herself standing in another hallway, one filled with doors marked with the names of those who had come before. "Where are we?" Jake squeaked, clutching his sister. Lisa's breath caught in her throat. "We just entered another level of the game. Standing before the doors, one marked winners and another losers," she trembled. What fate awaited them? Could they escape? Or would they be trapped inside these walls forever, feeding the darkness with their very souls? A scrape of nails against wood echoed behind her. Lisa turned slowly, dread pooling in her stomach as she whispered, "We have to choose, and fast." Would they open the door to salvation or doom? The wall of doors loomed before them, the names etched into the wood like scars. Each one whispered tales of past occupants, luring Lisa in like a moth to flame. A bead of sweat traced her spine, cold and unwelcome. "Winners. Losers," she muttered, feeling the weight of choices suffocating her. "Mommy, which one?" Mia's voice quivered, the understanding of stakes far too heavy for such small shoulders. Lisa glanced down. Her children were shadows of their former selves. They wore fear like a cloak, blending into the dark around them. "Winners! We choose that one!" Jake shouted, pointing to the door marked with a triumphant golden star. His wide eyes spoke of hope, but it felt dangerously misplaced. They had lost track of hope long ago. Just as her hand moved toward the handle, a chilling shriek split the air, wrapping around them tighter than the shadows. "You think you can win?" A voice slithered from the darkness beyond the doors, coils of malice wrapping around every word. "You don't know what playing means here." Lisa jerked her hand back, adrenaline flooding her bloodstream. "Maybe the losers can help us?" Mia suggested innocently. "No!" The word erupted from Lisa's throat, desperation cutting through her. "They might want to drag us down with them. We have to think this through." But with each passing second, the shadows pressed in closer, as if their very essence longed to seep into her skin. The whispers grew louder, eager to engulf them. "Choose, choose, choose." Lisa felt the ground shift beneath her feet, a subtle tremor that spoke of something sinister awakening in the dark. "Mommy, please," Jake whimpered, pulling at her shirt, his grip tightening with raw fear. As she looked down, the faces of her children were carved with the kind of dread she had only seen in nightmares. "Winners or losers," she murmured to herself, running her fingers along the rough wood, feeling the heat of the world gone wrong radiating from each door. Panic clawed at her throat as a new thought flickered through her mind. What if winning means losing something far worse? The idea sank deep, twisting in her stomach like sickening bile. "Mommy!" Jake screamed, eyes wide with terror. "They're coming!" Across the hallway, dark forms began to materialize within the shadows. The silhouettes of children twisted, contorted into grotesque versions of themselves. They pushed against the walls of their light prison, hands clawing at the doors, mouths stretching into wicked grins that seemed to promise pain. A sudden pull at her heart compelled her to the door marked, "Losers." An odd warmth seeped through her fingers as she wrapped them around the handle. "We can't stay here. We need to know what this leads to." She hesitated, knowing it could be a trap, but desperation clouded her judgment. "No, don't!" Jake cried. He flung himself between her and the door. His small body looked so fragile, so vulnerable against the darkness seeping deeper. "Please, Mommy, I'm scared." "Me too," Mia sobbed, shaking. A low thud echoed as something heavy slammed against the doors behind them. It rattled ominously, and for a moment it felt like time itself paused to breathe. Then a haunting wail erupted, engulfing them like smoke choking the air. Lisa's heart raced. She pulled the door handle with every ounce of strength, her resolve born from the primal instinct to protect her children. Suddenly, it swung wide open, revealing a blinding light that contrasted sharply with the oppressive darkness. It spread outward like an inviting hand, shimmering softly. But who was reaching out to them? The shadows recoiled as she stepped into the radiant gloom. Lisa felt Jake and Mia's hands slip from hers. In that breathless moment, the world twisted. They were in the light, but something was lost. A familiar noise echoed, low and taunting. Laughter. "Come play with us. Mommy!" Their voices were dulled, floating away like fallen leaves in the wind. The door slammed shut behind her, sealing away the shadows and her children. Fear pulsed through her as the laughter morphed into cries. What had she done? Breath hitching, Lisa whipped around, realizing she was alone now, and she had traded one nightmare for another. Suddenly the light flickered, revealing another door, this one unmarked, hauntingly inviting. "Choose again," whispered the shadows lingering just outside the glow. Would this door lead her to freedom, or could it be the final mistake? The unmarked door loomed before her, its surface gleaming faintly under the oppressive light. It was mesmerizing, a siren in a sea of dread. Lisa's mind raced, her breath quickening as the laughter that had come from nowhere still echoed inside her skull. "Mommy!" The voice of Mia called from somewhere, threading through the laughter with desperate clarity. "Where are you?" "Mommy is here," Lisa screamed, her voice swallowing the shadows, but they laughed back, wrapping around her words like a noose. She grabbed the handle of the unmarked door, almost instinctively, reaching for something, anything, that could save her from this growing nightmare. The door swung open. No light emerged, only darkness so thick it felt palpable, like the breath of something lurking just out of sight, waiting for her to step through. It was colder, and Lisa could sense her heartbeat in her throat, rushing harder as she stepped inside. With the echo of her footfalls swallowed by the enveloping void, she felt lost. The flickering light behind her dimmed until it vanished completely, leaving her engulfed in shadows. Panic surged through her as she whipped around, desperate to find the way back, but there was nothing but an all-consuming blackness. "Mia! Jake!" she called, her voice trembling. "Mommy!" came Mia's voice again, fainter this time, lost in the oppressive silence. "Where are you?" Lisa shouted, her heart hammering against her ribs. But the shadows had thickened, seeping into her thoughts, loitering in the corners of her mind. Before she could comprehend the implications of her decision, a soft, shimmering light appeared ahead, barely illuminating the path. With dread pooling in her stomach, she moved toward it. It beckoned, winking in and out of vision like a candle in the wind, hope tangled with dread. What lay ahead? Would it lead her to her children, or deeper into the web of despair? As she approached, shapes materialized out of the darkness. Children, many children. Their eyes glimmered, lit with the faint glow of the same light that lured her. They wore expressions that twisted her stomach, smiles that were too wide, too eager, their features marred by a chilling lack of joy. "You came to play," one shouted, the words dripping sweet venom. "No, I need my children," Lisa cried, whipping around frantically. Their faces, once innocent, were blanketed with a sinister hunger as they advanced toward her. Just then, the laughter returned, echoing from every direction, swirling around her mind like a storm. It pressed against her, forcing her to the ground. "Play with us. Forever," they sang in unison, voices blending in a cacophony of false cheer that sent shivers down her spine. Lisa stumbled back, terror clawing at her throat. She could feel the oppressive darkness creeping closer, the children closing in. Their eyes glinted with unholy glee, promising nothing but endless torment. "No, I won't," she screamed, backing away until she felt the wall pressing against her shoulders. In that moment of desperation, Lisa's eyes caught a sliver of something glinting in the distance beyond the children. A glimmer of silver. A key? She squinted, heart racing, willing herself to move toward it, clinging to her last thread of hope. But as she took a step forward, they erupted with laughter. "You can never leave!" one of them shrieked, their joy at her fear palpable. "What is it you want?" she yelled, voice trembling with defiance. The children halted, faces shifting, suddenly blank, their smiles replaced with a dark seriousness. "What we want is you." With a surge of adrenaline, she turned, sprinting for the faint glimmer, but the children lunged, grasping at her clothes, their fingers ice-cold against her skin. She felt a tug at her heart as she raced toward the glimmering key, knowing it could either be her salvation or a cruel joke. The shadows twisted, whispering, "Choose wisely." Would she snatch hope from the jaws of despair, or fall deeper into the abyss? As her fingers reached for the key, a scream erupted from somewhere far away, pulling at her sanity. It wasn't her children, but it could be the very sound to save them, or consume her entirely. What awaited her in the light could change everything or lead to irreversible darkness. The key felt cold in her palm, a shocking jolt of reality slicing through the thick fog of fear. The laughter of the children fractured momentarily, replaced by a heavy silence that enveloped her. Lisa glanced behind her, the sinister grins frozen on the children's faces, eyes dark and hollow. They seemed to be waiting, their anticipation coiling around her like a predator's embrace. She clutched the key tightly, its metallic surface biting into her skin, reminding her of her purpose. "I just need to find my children," she whispered, the sound nearly lost in the chilling void that surrounded her. The flickering light continued to pulse ahead, the only thing keeping her from surrendering to despair. Taking a deep breath, Lisa sprinted forward. The shadows writhed, wrapping around her like tendrils, but she pushed through, urgency propelling her onward. She needed to reach that light, to uncover whatever lay beyond this abyss. As she drew nearer, the slim glow transformed into a blinding flash, illuminating faces and shapes. Her children's faces. Mia and Jake stood huddled together, eyes wide with an innocent terror that churned in her stomach. Lisa's heart soared, filled with a desperate hope. "Mommy!" Mia's voice broke through the haze, a beacon of love. The children rushed toward her, arms outstretched as if to grasp her in their warmth. But as Lisa approached, the joyous reunion froze. Their features warped, smiles twisting grotesquely as the laughter erupted again, mocking, screeching. "No! No!" It was that twisted laughter, the children's voices merging into something monstrous. "You thought you could escape?" Lisa staggered backward, the joy turning to dread. The faces of her children flickered and shifted, morphing into the same vacant expressions of the other children who had closed in before. She clutched the key, the metal now warm, pulsating in her palm. Get away from them. Fury ignited in her chest as she screamed against the shadowy tide. The air grew thick, painfully heavy. The shadows pulsed and shifted, and she felt their palpable rage. You took too long. You should have played with us, they crooned, voices dripping sweet venom. And then, one of the children reached for her, fingers extending like tendrils. They felt like icy vines wrapping around her wrist. Panic surged, and Lisa swung her other arm, instinctively brandishing the key like a weapon. Get back! The key glinted in the dim light, and at that instant she felt a surge of energy course through her. It was as if the key understood her fear, resonating with something deep inside her. You are not my children, she shouted, her voice steady despite her quaking heart. The children recoiled, expressions shifting, faces full of rage. She stepped forward, fueled by the flickering ember of hope, and thrust the key toward the blinding light ahead. Take me to them! The children screamed in unison, a symphony of betrayal and envy as the darkness erupted into chaos. Their laughter devolved into shrieks, the air warping around her. The world began to spin, the light growing brighter, consuming the darkness around her. For a second she felt weightless, suspended between salvation and annihilation. Just as she thought she would dissolve into the light, a vision sparked in her mind. Jake, Mia, trapped, fighting against the shadows. In that instant, everything fell silent. The weight of the world hung on the edge of eternal night, and Lisa gasped, throat constricted. Let me save them, she screamed, clutching the key tighter, heart racing. But as the light surged, she felt the cold fingers of the shadows grip her ankles, dragging her back, whispering promises that made her skin crawl. Come play with us, they urged. Would she break free from their grasp, or was she doomed to wander this horror forever? The moment she thought she had control, she realized the key might not be a means of escape, but a key to a far darker game. Shadows writhed around her, and with an echoing laughter that pierced her soul, they began to pull her deeper. Make your choice, Lisa, they echoed, wrapping around her mind. And just like that, the darkness roared back to life, demanding a sacrifice. How much was she willing to lose? Would she plunge into the heart of the shadows or risk everything for love? As the darkness swirled and threatened to swallow her whole, a single chilling promise echoed in her ears. You'll never see them again. The pull of darkness was relentless, a weighted grip tightening around Lisa's chest. As she fought to keep herself anchored, her mind spiraled with memories of Mia and Jake, not their twisted forms, but the real laughter of her children, a symphony of innocence so stark against the sinister whispers that surrounded her. I won't let you take them, she gasped. The shadows shuddered at her defiance, a momentary hesitation coursing through the chaos. Lisa seized the opportunity, clutching the key as if it held their very souls. The metallic warmth surged through her, instilling a fierce determination. She mustered all her strength, channeling it into her voice. Show me where they are. With each word, the shadows recoiled, faces falling away, momentarily replaced by fleeting images of Mia and Jake, desperate and pleading. She felt a crack in the overwhelming darkness, a fissure of possibility. Yet they quickly morphed back into hollow grins, laughter resuming with a venomous delight. You really think you can find them? They taunted. You're lost, just like we are. The pulsating shadows constricted around her, wrapping her in a frigid embrace that sent quivers through her spine. Breathing growing labored, nausea surged within her, but she couldn't succumb. With a steely resolve, Lisa pushed her fear aside. I will save my children. As if in response, the key brightened, glowing against a backdrop of inky despair. She thrust it towards the shadows, praying it would unlock a way through. Come on! She cried out, the key now a lifeline to her children. The laughter turned to howls, a cacophony of rage echoing through the void. You play by our rules. You think you can change the game? The figures twisted and flitted about her like moths caught in a storm. An intense heat surged from the key and sliced through the darkness, illuminating a path. In the blinding light, Lisa caught a glimpse of a door, its ancient wood marred and warped, glowing as if it were alive. The light beckoned her toward it, an exit from this nightmare. But shadows clawed at her limbs, pulling her back, whispering lies that crawled through her mind. "They're gone, Lisa. Just give in." "No," she screamed, summoning every ounce of willpower. She pushed through, fighting against the whispers, against the icy tendrils trying to drag her down into despair. With a final surge of effort, she stumbled toward the door, the key burning a path through suffocating shadows now screaming in fury around her. Just as her fingers brushed against the smooth surface, she felt a sharp pain. A talon-like grip snatched her ankle, sending her crashing to the ground. "Let me go!" Panic surged as she flailed in desperation. Fear seeped through the cracks of her resolve, and she felt dread creeping back into her heart. "Join us!" A chorus of voices cried, their words weaving around her thoughts like a web. "Become one of us!" With her courage waning, Lisa looked at the door. Light spilled from it like a lifeline, beckoning her. It showed her visions, flashes of Jake and Mia in a world beyond the shadows. She gritted her teeth, rising to her knees. "I would rather die fighting for them than disappear into your dark game." Strength surged from the key, fueled by maternal love and raw determination. A blinding light shot from it, piercing the shadows and scattering them like ashes in the wind. Lisa screamed as her body forced forward, a radiant rush enveloping her. But just as she thought salvation was hers, a chilling echo came back, a whisper that sent her heart racing in sheer icy terror. "You can't run forever, Lisa. This isn't over." The doorway loomed larger, yet shadows clawed at her heels, and she felt their insatiable hunger sending shivers up her spine. Would she reach her children before the darkness reclaimed her? Would this door lead to hope or madness? With one last firm push, one desperate leap of faith, Lisa launched herself toward the glow, heart racing, breath caught, ready to shatter through the veil. What awaited her on the other side? The light enveloped Lisa like a warm embrace, washing away the chill of shadows and despair. She propelled herself forward, each step fueled by the love she had for Mia and Jake. The whispers behind her faded into incoherence, becoming nothing more than distant echoes drowned beneath the pulse of her racing heart. As the brightness intensified, it pulled her into a world that felt impossibly different, one that radiated safety and comfort. Lisa stumbled into a room, the air fragrant with the sweet smell of baked cookies, the walls adorned with cheerful colors. Her children's laughter rang in her ears, a sweet melody that beckoned her from the depths of the shadows. "Mia, Jake," she cried, finally locating their familiar silhouettes at the far end of the room. There they stood, perplexed but whole, their faces lightened up with innocent joy, untouched by the darkness she had just escaped. "Mommy!" they exclaimed in unison, running toward her. They flung themselves into her arms, and in that moment, Lisa felt the weight of the world lift. Tears streamed down her cheeks, mixing with their giggles, a beautiful blend of relief and love. For a fleeting moment, everything was right. But then reality crept back in, a heavier silence settling over the room. The sweet smells and laughter dulled. "Where are we?" Mia asked, her voice quivering slightly. Lisa drew back, holding her children close and looking around this newfound sanctuary that, despite its brightness, felt like it could easily dissolve into the world they had just fled. "We're safe now," Lisa whispered, but doubt threaded through her heart. Kindness and playfulness reigned in this place, but shadows danced just beyond her vision, lurking as she could feel them edging closer. Just as she began to nestle deeper into their embrace, the shadows surged ahead, breaking through the perimeter of safety. "You can't escape us, Lisa!" came a chorus of anguished shouts. As shadowy figures formed in the corners of the delightful room, their grotesque smiles still intact, lurking and waiting to consume yet again. Mia clung tighter, her little fingers grasping at Lisa's shirt, her eyes wide with fear. "Stay close," Lisa shouted, fear rippling through her. She had fought too hard to let the shadows claim her children now. "We need to leave." With one arm around Jake and the other around Mia, she dashed toward the other side of the room. But again the shadows pressed forward, blocking her path. Their whispers turned ominous, urging her to succumb. "Just play with us. Forever," they hissed in a choir of malicious delight. "No, I won't let you take them," Lisa shouted defiantly, shifting her weight but ready to fight. She could feel the energy inside her surging again, the key she had grasped thrumming against her heart. "What do you want?" she yelled, her voice filling the room, demanding an answer. All at once a familiar face emerged from the shadows. Harry, her neighbor. His eyes glimmered with an insidious spark. "You made a choice, Lisa. Now it's time to accept it." "Harry?" she gasped, the recognition jarring her. "And they've come to play," he laughed, swaying slightly as he drew closer. "You thought you could keep them from us? The game has just begun. You're already part of it." "Mia, Jake," Lisa whispered urgently. "Look at me, I need you to listen. Whatever happens, I'm never leaving your side." The shadows rumbled, eagerly anticipating the chaos to come. Lisa's hands shook, but she steadied herself, clutching her children tight. This was not the end. It was a moment to redefine the rules of the game. "I will protect them," she vowed, her voice igniting resolve in her heart. She reached for the key and held it up high, knowing its power flowed from her love. The light blazed as fierce as her protective instincts. The shadows recoiled, and she could see fear flicker in their twisted forms. With the strength of love coursing through her veins, she shouted the final command. "We choose joy, we choose family, and we choose to leave you behind." In that moment the key exploded with light, filling the room and radiating warmth, scattering shadows like dry leaves in a gale. Lisa felt the laughter and cries of children intertwine above her as the walls started to tremble. As the blinding light enveloped them completely, she heard the shadows scream, their voices splintering as they were banished from their sanctuary forever. Seconds felt like lifetimes, and when the light finally dissipated, Lisa opened her eyes. They were outside, the cool breeze tickling their cheeks, the sun shining brightly overhead. Just steps behind them, the house stood ominously, but it felt far away, like a shadow of their past. The thrill of her heartbeat buzzing alongside the laughter of her children grounded her as they stepped into the warmth of a new day, a fresh start. "Can we go get ice cream now, Mommy?" Mia chirped, her spirit unbroken. "Absolutely," Lisa replied, bending down to kiss each of their foreheads. They belonged to her, and together they would face anything, shadows or light. The laughter bubbled up, and as they walked hand in hand, she couldn't shake the feeling of resolution. The game was over, at least this round, and just like that, Lisa knew she had won, deeper than anyone could fathom, because it was love that triumphed against despair, and that love would always light their way. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. I want to hear from you, so flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about today's wild conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this finale. Join the community. Only true fans know how important it is to support us through these actions.